Does anybody need more time in that code in? All right, I think we're good. Okay, so I'll just kind of introduce myself. I'm Carrie Hillman. I'm the tech integration specialist at Nevada. So I work preschool all the way through high school, and then I do teach a class at Iowa State on distance learning. So we use Canvas in both situations. This does have our website on here too. That takes you to the Personalized PD website that we use.
And I'm Joe Wakeman. I'm the technology director for Nevada. I do all the nuts and bolts stuff.
So it's interesting that he's going to do the why and I'm going to do the how here, so it's a little bit opposite.
So why personalized PD? So we want to move and grow professional development from traditional model where the district or your building tells you what you were going to get. You don't really have a choice in that. It's mostly sit and get. You sit and listen to a presenter or sit and watch a PowerPoint. And it's broad topics. To a more personalized model where your PD journey is self-directed based on, in our case, your ICDP goal for the year. We give time throughout the entire school year for this process to work on your journey. This isn't just a one-day, two-day event. This is a continual process that we give time to do. We also want to empower you as a professional to choose what you want to focus on. Trust that you, as this professional person, can make your own decisions on what you want to learn and grow in. And one of the big things is we strive for our kids to have personalized learning opportunities, to have individualized learning opportunities, but staff. Very rarely does that conversation happen that we're doing all this for the kids, but we're not doing it for our own staff.
So like for one thing, we ask our teachers to personalize for our kids all the time. But a lot of them had never experienced that personalized learning themselves as a student. So to walk through this journey, it kind of gives them a perspective of that as well. Yeah, go ahead and do. No, push it on that one.
Okay, so on your pod, on your device, we asked, what do you want from PD? So you as an educator, as a professional, what do you want out of your professional development? If you would take a second and give us some responses here. So if you could plan and dream your own ideal PD, what would that look like? Is it just loading?
Mm-hmm.
We were having trouble too.
There we go, man.
Okay, so Jared says, trust that we know what's best for our learners and the time to go out and seek that information out. That's great. Chris says, time to work on topics that you're interested in. Absolutely. Still hear a little clacking, so hold me a second. Heather says, time to find resources or to connect with other professionals since you are one of 2 librarians at your district. Awesome. So, do you get this from your current professional development model at your district? So, nope. Tara says, allow for and place value on both personal and professional development. Awesome, absolutely. So, we'll find these answers. Do you have to click on this one?
I think so. Let's go back.
On this lovely graphic from our own Jared Boyd.
In the back.
So really what the personalized model does, you go from PD as a training opportunity to PD as a learning opportunity. So you shift your mindset. That's really what it is, from what we have to know to what you want to know. Someone else determines the time and goal, the end goal with traditional PD, whereas personalized PD, you as a professional determine your end goal. Normal PD is a linear method to complete a task, whereas personalized is a process that may not be linear to get to that end result. There's all sorts of different things there, but that really is the philosophical shift from a traditional PD model and probably how most people do it now on the training side to the learning model on the left side or the right side, where it is truly individualized and personalized.
I think one of the big things is really empowering our teachers and our educators, not just teachers, but anybody that takes this, to really empower their own learning and make them grow. And I think before it was like, yep, I'm going to apply it in my classroom, but that's the end. It wasn't going beyond that and making them like their own journey. And we'll kind of talk about some of our journeys along the way. All right, so our idea was climbing a mountain. We actually totally stole this from Jared, I'm not lying. So you have this whole idea of this journey that goes different paths. You don't, when you think of climbing a mountain, not everybody's taking the same path. Or you might start on this path and you see an easier route or a better route for you to take. And so we have kind of this journey where we start with base camps. And then we all go to research, integration, phase, sharing in, and then sharing out. And we'll kind of break those down. So in that situation, everybody has certain roles. Okay, so you have the student, which is usually the educator. They're the ones that are taking on their goal. And then you have our coaches. So like we have the TLC model, and our coaches find like we have a purpose. It's not like, well, I have to go search out somebody that needs to coach me. It's like that's part of the process. So coaches definitely have a very big role in that, and it's just to help empower those teachers. And then our admin does kind of and not us as an admin, but like the principal does the evaluation piece with it, and we kind of just run the back side of things. So during that time, we start with base camp. And so this is kind of like if you would come to this conference. This would be like a base camp. So you're getting those just bits and pieces, those initial ideas of things you could do. And so at the beginning of the year, oh, sorry, no, you're good. We start and we do Nevada PhD. So it's our in-service before school starts. And we provide 2 days of all in-house learning from our other teachers. So people that are in the TLC roles, they all have to present. Like that's part of their contract. Like I'm presenting the entire 2 days. We do get some outside agency with that as well in case like we don't have the capacity to do that, or like, well, we don't really have that information. Like somebody on, for example, like, I'm trying to think of the one, like Scrum training. Well, we can't provide that. So we had somebody come in and do some Scrum training too, because that was something that people asked for. And it's not like we're deciding the topics. We actually send out a survey to our teachers of like, hey, what would you like to know about this coming year? And we send that out in the spring, so then we have time to kind of plan and get people in set up. And then ask them if they want to present. So it's not just TLC people, but it usually ends up being people that have gone through this entire process and they want to share, which is awesome. And then through that, we do a Google form, and then we just set it up through Sched, just like we use for iTech.
And it's basically like a smaller version of iTech. We have several sessions throughout the day that, based on your interest level as a teacher, if you're not presenting during that time, you can go pick a session that you want to go to.
And during that time, so it's not like base camp only happens those 2 days either. So like if people would come here, this would be a base camp. But we do have some badging situations where you're just giving them the kind of the tool and how-tos throughout the year too. So that's how we use that.
Provide exposure and maybe spark some ideas of, hey, this is something that I really was interested in. I want to do my journey on that topic.
And then they start just doing their research. And so they discover an area like they are struggling with or they want to improve upon in their classroom based on like their data from their PLCs. Maybe it's just like, I really have an interest in this and I think it's going to benefit kids. So for example, one of our teachers, she did her whole journey on mindfulness. And actually she presented this morning here. And so like, it wasn't an area that she felt like kids were really struggling in. It was just something she had a passion in, and then she actually found out there was big struggles in that area. But that's where her idea started. Like, I see this kind of issues at home with my own kids, and then how the impact of it's having in the students. So once they kind of get that idea rolling, they meet with their coach. And it doesn't have to be their assigned coach, like the TLC model. They can meet with anyone that has coaching training. And they walk through their plan. Like, what is my idea that I really want to roll with? And they have that coaching conversation. And then they turn in this form, their Form 6 is what we call them. In Nevada, is their ICP planning form to their principal. So that's kind of their planning goal. They meet with their principal at that point. So once they get that kind of approved or just met with, then they start their research. And we ask them to find about 4 to 6 resources that they can look at to really dive into that topic. Now, like for example, my journey was kind of on this process. Well, there's really only one book, Jared's book, Professionally Driven, that really tells you the story. Okay, so that I only ended up using one resource for it. So we tell them, like, you don't have to, it's just a guideline. And it could be whether it's a tool or whether it's a practice, so like standards-based grading, it could be project-based learning, it could be, we really don't want it to be the emphasis on the tool. It's the skill or the strategy that they want to improve upon with their kids. So once they have those 4 to 6 resources, and those are some of the questions they kind of ask to themselves, and then they meet again with that coach once they have their resources kind of together. And then what we have them do is we have them submit a reflection to Canvas. So we provide resources of like, how do you decide your goal? How do you, like those pieces we provide in Canvas. So like they do their Form 6 right in Canvas. They do this aspect in Canvas. So like I said, it's housed in Canvas. The only due date we put on this for like this part of it is they have to have their planning form due to your principal by October 15th. That's just so we have it ready to go. First quarter, we're ready to move. And I know this has kind of been some pushback from our principals, like, hey, they're still on research and it is March. Yep. Like sometimes it takes longer to research something. And so that's kind of an area that we kind of push back on a little bit when they're like, wow, we know they should be at integration phase or sharing out by March. Well, they might not be there yet, and that's absolutely okay. So we try to get them like at least to integrate something by the end of the year if it's a multi-year journey, but that's kind of our philosophy on that. So in Canvas, and like we said, it can happen in any learning management system, but we just do it in Canvas, and I kind of want to talk about some of those features. For example, we have it so it's check marked off, so we do requirements, because teachers were struggling, like, I can't remember where I left off. Well, it's your journey, you should probably know where you're at, but like things that they had to submit, because we have different pieces that they have to submit, and like so when they meet with a coach, they just have to put the date and who they met with. I don't need to know any more than that. That's their conversation that they had with their coach. But we do have them submit that so they know where they're at in the journey. So we do put their requirements on in Canvas. And then you want to go to the next one? And then we also, because teachers are like, well, I don't know where I need to submit, like it says in Canvas, but that happens. So we added these icons to the front, so just using the emoji keyboard. So if that is on there, that means it is something they need to submit to Canvas. So otherwise, it's just a resource that they can use. Okay. And then, like I said, the ICUP form that they send to what they put into Canvas, so it's just a Google form link. And then what that does is it autocrats right to the principal. So, not necessarily a Canvas tool, but another tool, a Google tool that you can autocrat. And then, so the teachers aren't handwriting them. They're actually like putting them in, the principal gets it immediately. So that's kind of a very...
Then it's a nice PDF that the principal then just shoves away in a folder for when they do their evaluations and things.
Absolutely.
Just another thing that they can refer back to that's in a nice format.
And not in a file cabinet somewhere.
Absolutely.
So once they've done that research, that can take, as long as they think they need, and they kind of decide when they're ready to move on. I think a lot of our teachers initially thought like, well, how do I know when I'm done researching? I could research forever. Well, when you feel you're ready, then you're ready. And when you feel like you can integrate it into your classroom. So the next phase is the integration phase. And what they do is, again, we automatically embed those coaching conversations. So they meet with their TLC coach for a coaching conversation. And let's say I met with Joe for my research. I do not have to stay with Joe. If I feel like, okay, Carrie knows more about integration or implementation in my classroom, I'm going to meet with her. That's absolutely fine. It just has to be somebody that's been certified or had the training. And then they plan their unit. They have that planning conversation, that coaching conversation, and then they integrate it. And all that we ask them to submit for that is either some artifact. It could be a lesson plan, it could be a picture of the kids doing something, just something that shows that they have actually used it in their classroom. And then when they get done, they meet with their coach again for a reflective conversation. So it gets that coaching cycle in there, and then turning in a reflection just into Canvas. And now some of them are like, we've already met with our coach, why do we need to submit to Canvas a reflection? Like, it's always good to like self-reflect afterwards too, and then it gives them an artifact for later on as well.
And it helps also if you're meeting with multiple coaches that there is this documentation of the reflection piece, and if the principal wants to talk to you about through the process or know kind of where you're at and follow up, there's some documentation there as well.
And for example, like in our integration model or module, I just have in here that there's a prerequisite. So they're not allowed to integrate before they've done the research. So when later on, so we did have it completely like you have to do them in order, where someone was like, well, I'm ready to go, but yeah, you gotta do them in order. But sometimes they had to like switch some things in the module, so we didn't have that sequential part to put on, but we do have this part put on for the first 3, or the first 2 camps. Once, they might share actually outside the district before they share in-house. So that is an area like later on that we did turn off those prerequisites. And then in this phase, the only thing that they have to turn in is Form 7 by May 15th. That's the only due date on this end. And so that's a reflective conversation with their principal to set that up. So just so he has time or she has time to meet with them. And that's as far as everybody has to go, is through this phase. That is a requirement each year. So they might say, okay, I'm still researching March. Well, can you integrate or implement something that you've researched by then? And then be able to have that conversation. So that's like minimum requirement for everybody. Then the next step in their journey is to share in-house of what they've learned, what they found out. It could be great, it could have a complete fail, and that's absolutely okay. We try to encourage even the things that didn't go the way they thought they would, that's fine. So for example, we had one teacher that started this journey, and she had this great goal, and she wanted to do her self-paced algebra class, and then she's like, whoa, I need to step back. And then she ended up taking a whole different journey, and that was the beauty of it. She goes, do I need to go back and resubmit things? No, like that's the beauty of this journey. Like you do not have to do that. And then she ended up sharing it in-house of where like her journey started and how it changed. In-house sharing what they do, same process. Meet with coach to plan their presentation or however they want to do their sharing, and then do it, reflect, and turn in a reflection. In our reflections, I'm like, they do not need to be peer reviewed. They do not have to be written in MLA or APA. It's like a blog entry, basically. Make it casual, make it meaningful for them.
And a lot of times when they'll do that as a bi-weekly staff meeting or something like that, they'll just spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes kind of explaining their process, their research, their integration findings.
And that's how we set it up. And we used to do it right at the beginning of their ICP scheduled time, because we do give them 15 hours during the year. And they're like, that's cutting into our time. So we did move it to this model. Now, this year, we're also giving an in-house showcase at the end of the year. So that's where I said you may actually present out of the district before you present in district, because everybody that's gone through this journey will share this year at the end of the year. And it's just gonna be kind of like station, like tech fair type things. You go around to any of them. And so, for example, just like Joe had said, like Maggie here was presenting her Cub Talk, and we really try to promote and promote those people throughout the journey by social media too, to get other people interested in it.
And it's great because it's not just a presentation by the person sharing out their finding. There's question and answer too, so it's a true collaborative effort that helps those people maybe spark some interest, or helps our presenter kind of maybe tweak some of the things or dig into some more things based on questions they've heard from their peers.
With that, like I'm going to give an example. So one of our high school teachers did her research on executive functions 2 years ago. And she shared in-house, and now it's probably 15 people's journey this year. They just saw like how much it impacted her students, and they're like, wow, that's like awesome. All of our kids need this training. So it's really empowered her, and she was not a leader beforehand. I mean, she was just kind of doing her thing in her upper level math classes, and kind of her own island there. And now she is a true leader in our district, and people look to her in that building for any training in executive functions.
And she's not even a PLC coach.
Nope, she is not. And then their ultimate summit is to share their journey outside of the district. And so I know that we have like some of our kindergarten teachers who are like, I am never presenting at a conference. I am fine with 5-year-olds, I am not presenting to peers. So we give them multiple options. So when they do this same process, meet with their coach, do the presentation, reflect, and submit a reflection, and then go to the next slide. So some of Oh, I'm not going to tell you yet what your options are. So what are some ways you could share outside of the district?
Okay, so Joe says publication in a journal. Mindy says social media blasts. Tara says a blog. Heather says Twitter and Instagram. Ryan says YouTube. Chris says Flipgrid. Awesome. That is a good one.
So we have teachers that have all done every single one of these except Flipgrid. So that is awesome. I'm like, ooh, that's another tool we should add. So we do have, we used to have our teachers set up their own blog in the first iterations of this, because this is like year 4 or 5 for us. And then we're like, well, if they're not going to continue it once they're past this journey, like what's the point? So some people, like Jennifer, the one I was talking about with executive functions, she has continued on that journey and she posts like once a week on her blog. And it's really taken off for her. But other people were like, you know what, let's just have a district blog that anybody can submit to and collaborate on. So we do have a blogger account, and we just add those everybody as authors, and then it's awesome for other people to see their journey, and we blast these out on social media. Do you want to also add the other benefit of that? Can we do that with our community?
Well, so yeah, so not only by having all these blog entries in one place are teachers around the district able to see other ideas, not just because we presented in district, which usually is in your building, so the other buildings aren't able to see that, so we get that exposure. But also, we publish these to our website and our district social media, so that way people in the community kind of know what's going on in our classrooms as well, and that our teachers are actually doing the research for these things and finding these things. This isn't some huge research corporation that's coming up with this stuff. These are things that our teachers are coming up with and developing. So it's been a great thing for the community to kind of understand why we do what we do, and
why are they taking hour and a half?
yeah, why are we doing meditation and learning yoga? That seems ridiculous. Well, this is actually why. Here's the research behind it. So it's been fantastic there as well. We've gotten a lot of good compliments from sharing that outside of just this place.
And that's where those reflections can come into their blog posts. So they do not have to wait to the end of the year or when they're at their summit to actually share outside of the district. They can take those reflections that they put in and immediately add them to the blog. Also, we've had people do Twitter chats. So like Jared was running Pro-Driven Chat, and we had, Jared, how many teachers did we have that ran a Twitter chat? 3? Yeah. Jennifer, me, and Emily, and Meg.
Yep.
So
Meg.
4 of our teachers ran that Twitter chat for that week. And that was new for every single one of them except myself, of running a Twitter chat. They're like, how do I even do this?
I'm pretty sure a couple had to create Twitter accounts just
yes. And now they use it all the time for
absolutely.
PLNs. But that then would be a base camp session. So it's not like I'm not doing anything during these times, because it kind of took over our tech PD, is we do ICP instead, and then I do base sessions during those times. So it may be on Canvas, it may be on like, how do you use Twitter? How do you run a Twitter chat? Things like that. How do you create a blog post? What should be in a blog post? So things like that are constantly going on. So you may jump back to base camp. Doesn't mean you have to jump back in that level, but just maybe a base camp session at that time. And then like obviously sharing out conferences. So we only had 1 other teacher present this year, but last year we had 3 of our people share their journey at ITech or any other conferences. We had one of our teachers share to like undergrad students in music ed program, journals, all sorts of things.
One of our teachers that does mindfulness, and she does some leadership. She's done a lot of outside conferences, not only ITech, but I'm trying to think of what. There's the Flipping Group. They did a couple of things for them. So it's awesome.
And even like sharing, like for example, just her journey. She does things with all of our sports teams. She does things and she's a high school teacher. Goes to the elementary. So it's still kind of in-house, but she's sharing not necessarily her journey, but her practice now. It's become part of her.
That's really her specialty and her role now as our district mindfulness coach. that she's meeting with most of our varsity sports teams and a bunch of our elementary classrooms, and it's fantastic.
And then like those model teachers that are in the TLC rules, it's every single one of their specialty areas has come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting people that you're like, oh, I could be an ICDP, I could be a TLC person, but I'm not sure where I fit. Like this is pulling them in. People that wouldn't have applied before are definitely applying for those positions. And then throughout the journey, we try to recognize our staff. So when they complete one of those modules, they earn a digital badge, but they also earn a flag. So when they get the research module done, they are presented with a flag. We kind of do this decent ceremony at the beginning of every ICDP day, kind of get that motivation going, getting those people recognized. So it's not like you have to meet the summit to be recognized at all.
You want to recognize them for the work that they've done and the hard work that it takes to do the research and the integration. So have these little mini recognition ceremonies at the beginning of staff meetings just to say, hey, you know what, this is their journey and they've made it to this level. And
I think throughout those sharing times as well, people get ideas from each other too. Because we're like, hey, what's your topic? When they come up to get their flag, like, hey, just tell us like a two-sentence summary of what you've learned. So it just gets those ideas constantly flowing. It's not like, oh, at the beginning of the year is only the time I hear it. So that's been great. And then when they get to the summit, once they've shared outside the district, they get a plaque. And so we think this plaque that stays with them, and they only receive one plaque. They return the flags, and then that plaque, every time they complete a year, they get another flag. So once they reach that summit. So then when they get ready to retire or whatever, they have one thing that kind of just shows that journey of how they grew as a professional too.
You may think it seems kind of corny or silly, but it's really huge to recognize those people and for the work they put in. I think it makes the model that much more valuable. That you're not only recognizing the ones that get to the summit, you're recognizing the process, and it's huge, and I think it does mean a lot to our staff.
And then if they get to the summit, we do offer it for credit, so they can get 2 research credits or 2 graduate level credits. So they pay for their credits, but they love that because they're getting their time during that PD time. So some people think it's double dipping. Well, maybe, but we're trying to recognize that effort, and we know that our educators put time way beyond that hour and a half each 5-week cycle or whatever. So just giving them that option and going, hey, like I grew as a professional. I didn't have to go to a conference to get that, or I didn't have to take an outside course. It was me finding that information. So to me, it's almost like action research. Without doing the formalized research part of it. It's just finding those resources. And then we kind of grew this. We have the opportunity for collaboration. So when people submit their resources, so that's one thing they do have to submit, we put those on, like I have just a Google sheet of topics that people are learning about, and then I separate those on different tabs at the bottom by topic. So if, like Joe did standards-based grading 3 years ago, I have a link to his resources. So I don't have to start at ground zero.
You can take what somebody else worked on and then build from there, or maybe you want to attack it from a different lens, but you want to use some of those resources. Why should you have to reinvent the wheel? We've got this huge repository and wealth of internal information. Let's use it, let's tap into that. And then it also provides, if you've got questions, I can go back to Carrie and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about your journey? Or say Carrie's in the middle school and I'm in the high school. I didn't see any of your presentations. I see your resources. Can you walk me through it? Provides a resource for that as well to open up cross-building, cross-curricular collaboration.
Another thing we had, a lot of people, most people did their own journeys to start for the first few years. And I was like, can I partner up with somebody? We're like, absolutely, but it wasn't something we really emphasized. So this year we're like, if you want to have a cohort on a topic, that is fantastic. You just all have to submit your stuff so we know where you're at in your journey, because Joe and I could research the exact same thing and have completely different takeaways from that. So they do have to do their own journey, but they are in a cohort. So now we have rotating PDs. So like there might be an ICDP day at the elementary, and it's a different day than the middle school and a different day than the high school. So then I can be available to go to those places. So, but once a quarter, there is a collaborative day that everybody, the whole district has it. So that's new this year. But that's when those cohorts kind of meet. And then they're also going to be using like the collaboration tool within Canvas that they can kind of do some collaborating that way too.
So TLC coaches and guides also have the opportunity to walk their teachers through the process. So they use that sheet as well to connect teachers with other, so say your topics are completely separate topics, but the TLC coach knows that there may be some research in an unrelated topic that you could apply to that. So they're going to help connect those resources as well to their teachers. And then we've got the sharing process, internal and external, where you've got the collaboration within that staff meeting when you're presenting, and you've got the kind of questions back and forth. And as well as external, when they go to conferences and on the blog and stuff, there's comments and a lot of opportunities for collaboration there.
Now, it hasn't been a perfect journey. So we try to reiterate every year of how we can improve this process. So, for example, the due dates, like you talked about, that was more from the admin side, like accountability, right?
You've got somebody who is the last week of school and they haven't completed their research yet. We got to have dates so that at least once a quarter you have an actionable date. Well, that doesn't fit with personalized learning. You could have a research topic that's this huge monumental thing, and you expect me to get research done in a quarter. There's no way. And everybody learns at different speeds and does research at different speeds in cases. So we really need to model what we want our kids to do. So we got to be trusting a little bit here.
And with that, I think one of the big takeaways I got from Jared's book as well was have them all in one location. And it's something that our district still doesn't fully embrace, that we meet and then they go off into separate locations. But then it gives the coaches an opportunity to really see like, hey, they're struggling. They haven't moved on, like where can I interject and have those just informal coaching conversations? Because it's not like teachers don't want to not do anything, they just maybe are stuck on their journey or just need a little bit of conversation to have that happen. So I think that is a key thing if you were going to take on this journey to always do. And then just like navigating Canvas. So we purposely put it in Canvas because it was something we had purchased, the learning management system that we purchased, and we wanted them to see it from a student perspective as well. So how do you have to design a course? Things like that. Like what makes things easier? And then just like putting in those little emoji icons at the beginning. Like this is where you turn it in. So now all of our self-paced math stuff has those emojis in front too. So if it's a video, like things like that. So just now they're moving it into with the students too. And then they struggled with who saw the submissions. Like, because I am not an administrator, but Carrie's the teacher in the course. Yeah, I'm the one that's giving you credit. So that's why I get it. So it's just a conversation that our admin team had to have with our teachers of like,
why is Carrie seeing my ICDP? That's supposed to be something between me and the coach or me and my building principal. Why is this third party person having access to it? Well, it's there, so Carrie's able to give the credit.
And then also, I look at, like, I don't even look at their Form 6 and Form 7. That's why they're a Google form that gets auto credit. But I do look at the reflection, so then I can see like, hey, maybe they need this resource on the tech side of things that they have never even heard of, because when they don't know, they don't know, right? So that's another way that I can help implement some of those base camp sessions. And using time given effectively, that just goes back to, that's not my role. Like that's where if you have them in one location, they stay on task as well. And everyone understanding the vision. I mean, we had an old administrator that retired at this point, but just getting the idea of like, it's not about accountability. If they are passionate about their topic that they choose, and they see, like, they may be compiling data, so it's, they haven't turned anything in, but they will see that benefit from them. So they will have the outcome, whether it's positive or negative, they will produce something. So I think that we kind of have to, yes, accountability and attainability, but it does happen automatically from the teachers.
Do you need things like due dates to tell you that this research is terrible, or this isn't, the topic is understanding the barometric pressure and its effect on your special ed kids, but then the research is nothing connected to that. So that, rather than let a due date or let these rigid requirements, that's a coaching conversation, and that's a conversation that your principal, along with your coach or your guide, can have with that teacher to coach them through that, or then it becomes a teaching standard issue. But that's not a place for this process to punish them. That's just a natural outcome of the work or lack thereof.
And then kind of the compliance of the whole way of process. So some of our older school teachers are like, I did my ICDP Form 6 on paper. That's how I'm going to turn it in. And our principals are like, nope, you got to do it in Canvas. So just that compliance of like, yes, you do need to turn it in this way because that's how we know and that's how we're going to run things. And
we've had not a lot, but a few instances of, well, my research is on paper, my research is here. Well, it's not on Canvas, so your coach doesn't have access to it. All the people that want to help you through this process and be successful at it don't have access to that. So it's not just a matter of ticking off a box. That's not why you're submitting it. You're submitting it so people can help you. That's been a little bit of a challenge.
And with that, I'm on the back end side of things. As the admin or the teacher of it, I have 150 people going through this process. I'm not gonna do it on paper. I'm sorry, like that's just it. So that's kind of like the whys behind that.
Yeah, and that's why we have Canvas, but any LMS just to kind of facilitate this process. Yeah, you can do it without that, but on a large scale, that would be really tough. So an LMS just kind of facilitates that process and helps make back-end management much easier.
So now that we had kind of shared our journey, and I can share some topics with you too. So like people are wondering like, what are people researching? Like standards-based grading, yoga, concept-based learning, what are some other ones? Self-paced math, like just reiterate that. Word studies, it's from things that are like content-driven to like mindfulness that isn't content at all. Executive functions. So there's gamuts all over.
Well, the fantastic thing about this is it has physically replaced our monthly Tech PD time, but so we don't technically have really formal Tech PD anymore. But the awesome thing is now we've gone beyond substitution, and now we find the practical content. Then we'll help you find the tool for that. So it's not like they're specifically asking for Flipgrid or Nearpod or Google Expeditions. They're saying, I'm trying to do this big history thing and want to teach about ancient Egypt and okay, well, we've got these expedition kits, let's connect that. So rather than ask for a specific tool, you've got the curriculum driving the requests and the research. So it's I think made our Tech PD offerings that much better.
And personal.
Absolutely.
So you're not getting.
It's not we're just trying to guess that we need to offer this generic Google Docs class or these other things. No, it's our offerings are truly, and if it's me sitting with you doing a one-on-one session during Tech PD or ICDB time, that's awesome. I don't care if it's not a full room of 30 people.
It actually makes it better.
Yep.
If it's not.
It's what something needed what somebody needed when they needed it, and that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah. And I think like before this whole journey of ours was Personalized PD was like, here's 3 options, go to one of them. That's still not personal. Like we would get those PE teachers like reading, math, or executive functions. Like yeah, you probably fit executive functions into PE, but what do I really want?
Well, and then you've got your art teachers and your music teachers saying, I can't do anything with this. What am I supposed to do with this? Even if we on the back end say, well, you could use it this way, but they don't see the connection. Whereas now there's 100% connection with all of our offerings because it's based on what you want to do and what you want to grow in. So then we connect resources with that in mind.
So if you want to do this in your district, this is the hard part. How do you sell it to the people that you need to sell it to? Whether it be the admin team, whether it be your teachers, however you want to do it. How do you get that sold? We've been very lucky that our admin team has just been.
We haven't had pushback. We haven't. It happened. Originally, we were kind of do this as just a tech thing. So you would pick what your tech journey would be, but then it became the conversation that it should have. No, this is going to be district-wide PD, and then we will connect the tech tools to it. So we've been pretty lucky that we've been able to do that journey.
And you can get ahead, I'll talk as we go. So 4 or 5 years ago when we started this, it was completely optional. Like they still had to do the ICDP process, but they didn't have to do it in Canvas. It's just the idea. But those that joined in, like for the credit piece, loved it. They were like, this has been so awesome. I get time, I'm feeling empowered. And so they are the ones that have been able to sell it for us.
Okay, Heather says, something that hits all staff members at their own level. Making it personalized helps them take ownership of the PD. Joe says, we have a PD planning team, so I can present it at one of those meetings. Absolutely.
I think you also have to have the culture of embracing failure. Like, even if it doesn't result in what you thought it would be, that's awesome that you took this journey and like, how can we change
That's
it
one
so
thing
it
we've
does?
definitely tried to promote is, so your integration just totally flops. What's wrong with that? Okay, either start back over, or maybe that's just, we need to find a different topic or kind of revise the lens of your topic. But that's inherent to the process, is being able to fail, having it be okay that, okay, I don't have this deliverable at the end, or I don't have these exit tickets that are going to show that everything was all hunky-dory. That's fine,
Ooh, that's a good
but
one.
you learn from the process, so that's what matters.
I like curses. Admin wouldn't need to be sold, teachers would, because sit and get is easier for them. Amen. Absolutely. So that was kind of one of our pushbacks right away. That's why we offered it as an optional thing. Like, those that want to go on this journey, here's your opportunity and your credit. Yep, some sit and get. But then once they find that passion, like, oh my gosh, this will work for any topic. Or like through the PLC conversations, when my kids are struggling on equivalent fractions, what can I do? Or like, they're constantly struggling in this topic, what do I need to change? And so it comes inherently. I would say that one of the big things throughout this journey is this last year, like last year was the first year, like everybody had to do it in Canvas, like boom. At the end of the year, our TLC coaches came back to me and they said, it was awesome. Our conversations at the end of the year were amazing because people were already like, next year, my ICDP topic is this. They already were thinking that in May, not like, I am done for the year. They're like, I think I'm gonna go on this journey, or I wanna change my journey in like the next step. So like with Jennifer, executive functions, she had done that. Now she's leading the PD. So her students have changed from her in-class students. Yeah, she's still doing it and doing research with that, but now her students have become the staff. So.
Okay.
Any questions?
So that's it. So
for us?
what questions, what logistics, what can we help you with? What concerns?
So how much time, so you say you have your ICPD time, how much time is given for that?
So we give them 15 hours during the year.
Okay.
So it's 90
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
And we used to do it like a 5-week rotation. So 1 week would be ICP, next week would be building, next week would be district, next week would be capturing kids' hearts, and then rotate back. The teachers took this feedback too, and they're like, you know, it'd be really nice if we had like 3 weeks in a row of ICP. And then we could focus on building for a couple weeks. And so they may have 2 months where they don't get back to it formally, but they had those 3 weeks that are like, we got so much accomplished, like for the research. And then they'd have 3 more weeks for the integration. Like, and not that they have to do it at that point, but like they just felt like they had so much momentum that they weren't stopping at that point.
And generally this takes place on our late start Mondays.
Okay.
That's when we've got the time built in for it.
And then like those 60 hours are required for credit, you're thinking like, how are they getting those? I was able to justify that with our PD days at the beginning of the year, our Nevada PhD. So there's 15 of your hours, and then our 15 hours. So you have to have 30 hours seat time. And then with their coaching conversations, with their integration piece of it, that's where I was able to justify that. Other questions for us?
When you guys, I just noticed you had AIW scoring teams and all that stuff. How does that fit with this?
So they bring their planning, their integration planning to their AIW teams. So
Okay.
even if they don't have an AIW scheduled day,
Yeah.
they might meet with their team, or like it might be a smaller part of their team. So just like during their planning period, or
Gotcha.
and that can be part of the coaching conversation as well if they have multiple people in there. So they aren't necessarily scoring it; it's more the planning phase of it.
Got it.
How many different coaches do you guys have available, like in your district, that help them on the certain days?
It depends on the building. So our elementary is preschool through 4th grade. So we have, I think, are we there 10?
Yeah, there's probably 10 there, probably 5 or 6 at the other 2 buildings.
And then our principals are also
Principals,
allowed to
and there's an instructional guide who's 90% of their day is that. And there's instructional models and
But yeah, our coaches, our models, and our guides have all said this has just really solidified their job and given them purpose, and like people are using them. Like they struggled with that the first year or two of like.
really the first couple of years that we had the TLC grant, that was right when we were kind of implementing personalized PD, where it wasn't full on and they weren't really a huge part of the process. So it was, they didn't know what to do. I mean, our guides kind of had a sense of purpose, but our coaches probably literally did nothing. So it was, okay, we're collecting this stipend, we're putting this time in, but people aren't using us. What do we do? Well, through this process, it has given them time and built-in purpose. So it's really married itself well with that process. And I think it's really important that we give them the time. If we didn't give them the time, expected them to do it on their own, it wouldn't work. Or if we front loaded it, that yeah, you do it all in your pre-service and post-service days or during Christmas breaks or things, it wouldn't work. It has to be a dedicated, continual process for that to work. And again, it's about honoring them as a professional, that we trust them to have all this time throughout the year, that to do their own work and do their own research. And Jared, anything you want to kick in?
I would just say that if you want to reach out to me as a resource too, I'm more than happy to collaborate and talk and communicate in any way, shape, or form. I know throughout this entire process, the last 5 years, and working with a lot of different kinds of school districts, is that it never, ever looks identical for 2 school districts, hardly ever. So figuring out the nuances between the PD time, between even the layout of the school buildings in distance from one another, like all of those things play a factor into making it work.
So take kind of this as just an abstract, is take the model and then adapt it to all the specifics of your district.
So I can basically just speak from, well, your situation sounds like this other situation, and I can maybe speak to that or help plan some of that. But I would say that, being completely frank, that there have been some schools, a few, that have started it and then stopped it.
So do you want to speak a little bit about more of that? What have you seen that has caused this model to not succeed and be done?
In the 2 school districts where this happened, one being one that I'm in right now, it really does come down to what after reading the Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, there has to be a high level of psychological safety within the culture of your district. That means people feel comfortable speaking of their opinions, their thoughts, and more importantly, they know that they will feel heard. Doesn't necessarily mean that their ideas are going to get shut out. So if that is something that is, I kind of feel like that's the fertilizer in the soil. Like that is what's going to allow the seed of personalized PD to truly flourish. Because if that's not there, then you're putting a seed in soil that is not prepared for it to allow to grow. So the districts, like, I ask myself, what's the difference between Nevada and DCG and some of these other schools where it's just totally taken off, and some of the schools where it has continued to flounder into year 2 or 3 to the point where they just discontinue it? It usually comes down to that idea of psychological safety, and is there a strong amount of trust between admin and staff? I truly feel that's the intangible that I continue to feel as I work with a lot of these school districts. So if that's there, which I got the sense immediately that was there in Nevada, and that's why they're in year 4 killing it right now.
Yeah, we've got the trust, we've got the buy-in. As soon as you start to, the things like the dates and the accountability, that erodes that trust. And if you let those things, luckily we've been able to push back and run with it. But if you start to let those constraints pile on, then me as a teacher, well, I don't have any, you don't trust me through this process because you're assigning all these arbitrary dates.
And that's why
Why
you guys
should I
put
spend
those in
time?
place.
Yep.
And be like, yes, we can put these in place because we've already shown,
Yep.
just like what Joe was talking about, we have that social investment already
Yep.
within our culture where we can put those tiny things in place and be like, we still trust everyone. But yeah, I'd say that's been my experience so far.
I would say the next goal that we have is none of our admin, besides I'm Joe, have taken a journey themselves as a student. So that's going to be.
So we want all the admins to model that as well. Is while our teachers are doing it, our kids have personalized opportunities. Why do our admin team not do that? So we want them to see the process from a teacher's lens. That maybe the dates aren't important because I'm a busy principal and I get time in where I can, or I picked a pretty weighty topic. So I think that would definitely help understand those things from a different lens. Like just much like we have this through Canvas, so teachers can experience Canvas through a student lens, and then kind of understand that philosophy there. Admins will take this and understand the process from a teacher's lens and understand that a little bit more. I think if we could go back, we probably would have pushed for that harder at the beginning of the process, but we haven't had enough pushback to really have necessitated that.
Yeah.
That's just been one of those, hey,
Maybe if we
this would
push
be
back
awesome.
from them if we required that.
Yeah. So that'd be a change. Any other questions? We're kind of out of time, but
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us in our journey.